Hello, and welcome to Unsheathed with your hosts, Kyell Gold and Cam Hirosaki. We hope that you enjoy the program. Please stick around afterwards. There'll be cake and blowjobs.
All right, hi everybody. Sorry we're late. Welcome to Unsheathed live stream number 4.
Number 4, yeah.
I believe.
Yes.
Thank you for logging in the middle of the day here on the West Coast, and hopefully end of the day on the East Coast and evening over in Europe.
Or very, very early morning if you're in the Far East or Australia.
I'm Kyell Gold.
I am busy Cam Hirosaki. Surprise, live stream hates me.
Somebody got out of work early to get here, and then we were late. Anyway, we're happy to be back.
Your life priorities straight.
We actually recorded an episode of the regular podcast last night, which will be up hopefully sometime this week. So we're excited about that. We're going to be uploading a few of the episodes that we recorded over the year. Hopefully the FC one will go up today. It was having some uploading issues when I left it this morning. I'm over at Shea Otter right now.
Yes.
So we're not in our mountain bunker. We are instead in a garden paradise.
Yes, you might be able to see actual outside, which you can't see from the mountain bunker because it's both in the mountains and in a bunker.
Exactly. So
You see what we did there?
the other thing you may notice is people are saying, hey guys.
Hi.
So yeah, as you may be able to hear, my voice is kind of recovering from a cold that I'd had over the weekend. Hopefully it'll last a half hour. And we have no wine because it is the middle of the day.
Yeah, it's the middle of the day. I still have work to do after this.
Yes, and so do I.
I don't know if our tone's particularly dulcet. My voice is pretty deep unless I'm flustered and
mine's kind of scratchy at this point.
scratchy and whatnot.
But
is it ever too early for wine? Yes it is. Especially after this past weekend.
the RMFC podcast is on the docket. Actually, we uploaded it already, didn't we?
The RMFC?
It's up there. Yeah, the RMFC one's uploaded already.
From last year or this year?
From this year.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I uploaded
the one
it.
we just did?
Yeah.
Oh. But iTunes sometimes takes a few hours to update on your feeds. Okay.
Well, no, I did that like a couple weeks ago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
So you uploaded it out of order? Was that it?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Because I think we had it finished, and I put it up there.
Oh, okay.
I will double check when I get
didn't
home.
realize.
I might have just uploaded it to the directory and not updated the feed, but
Oh, okay.
I thought
people
I
are saying
put
they
that
see
one
it now, so there we go.
Okay.
Okay. Oh yeah, August 28th. Wow. Okay.
Yep. So there you go.
Yes, and we have more real episodes on their way.
Yes.
You can listen to them out of time. We came unstuck from time.
Briefly. But the FC episode will be the next one up, and then we have a short episode that we did kind of between FC and FWA, and then we have a short episode that we did last night where we kind of talk about things that are coming up and things that we're going to be doing and things we're working on and so on, so forth.
Exciting things such as where we're going to be and
Yes.
what we're going to be doing. And to save time, we won't recap those now because that would be redundant and stupid.
Right. Redundant Fox and Otter are not redundant.
That logically breaks my brain.
Yeah, so if we're not going to recap that, then I will at least say that for those of you who don't get to listen to that episode, I have a book coming out at Rainforest, which I'm very excited about, called Winter Games. It has art by the lovely Sabertooth Erman, and it is another in our cupcake series, which is going to be very cool. And there will be an actual cupcake there, apparently. Just one big one, according to the caterer. So we will have fun. That is Thursday night of Rainforest at 9 p.m. I'm presuming they put it Thursday night so that Fuzz could start selling them, and it wouldn't be like last year when they did the book release Saturday night after it had already been on sale for 2 days.
Yeah, that was a bit of a thing.
How about you? What do you have going on that we didn't talk about last night?
That we didn't talk about? That's a good question. Let's see. other me is working on a cupcake as well, which will hopefully be out at MFF if I get it done. It was supposed to be out at MFF last year, and I didn't get it done. But that'll be a thing. It's one of those things that's going to sound like it's really depressing when you hear a summary of it, but it's honestly not. Just because it's me doesn't mean it's depressing. I write happy stories too.
This is true. I've seen them.
I know. I think even like some of the 11 I just wrote over the summer were happy. Or at least bittersweet. Or slutty. Barring anything else. Iridescent Dragon asks, how can it be a cupcake if it's giant? I asked the same question.
That question has been brought up several times, and I think we're just going to have to wait for the answer.
Yeah. I mean, if you make it in a cup, I guess it's still a cupcake. Oh, I made somebody cry in a pizza shop. Yay, I think. I mean, I guess that's better than, like... I'd rather be told, oh, you made me cry in a pizza shop, instead of, like, you made me jerk off in a coffee shop restroom. Like, that's a little creepier.
I don't know. I mean, they're both reactions.
They're
both emotional responses to a story.
That is true.
I would rather be... Well, I don't know that I need to be told where people are inspired to jerk off with my stories, but
I guess it's better than you made me jerk off while crying.
Yeah,
then that would be...
what I was going to say was the worst would be like, oh, I read the story, it was okay, it didn't make me feel anything. That would probably be the worst for me.
I have no strong feelings on this one way or the other. Oh yes, my College Fox story. I was really happy with that. I actually wrote that because of reading Kyle's draft of Winter Games, and needed to semi-abruptly, burst into creative energy and write something.
Which was cool. So there you go. Inspirational fiction.
Said he likes the train timeline one.
Yeah,
I like that one too,
the train
actually.
One.
That one was fun, because people were looking at it like, wait, like... That's how long the sex lasted? I'm like, well, when was the last time you had sex and actually checked the time? Like, especially if you're doing it in a public place and need to get it over and done with very quickly.
And you're two guys.
And you're two guys. That's a good point, too. Although, I,
Finish your sentence.
I was going to say, without naming names, I was going to say, there have been times where I wish sex was over a lot quicker, and it's one of those things where it's like, look, whatever you need me to do, just tell me, because clearly I'm not doing it.
Unless what they get off on is like having the other person spend 40 minutes.
I mean, like, I can understand getting off on denying somebody else orgasm, but denying yourself an orgasm when they're trying to give you one, that's just mean.
Well, there you go. Some people get off on it. But anyway, that aside... what questions do we have from people in the chat room? Since
do any of you
we're
have
done talking
questions?
about ourselves now.
Yes, and Kame Hirasaki's sex life. There is no sound guy. The sound guy is Kyle's laptop.
Yeah, basically. These are very like ghetto podcasts here.
I don't know.
On the fully produced ones, we have a sound guy, but on these, it's just like us talking into a laptop.
Well, so people are asking about Kit. No, Kit is not involved with these live stream things. He is our sound guy when we do real episodes. These are kind of on the fly things that we do when we can.
And partly the reason for that is one of the limiting factors of the other podcast is the fact that Kit needs to spend like 3 to 4 hours in post-production after we record an episode. Whereas with these, because they're live, there's really no post-production. It's just... We talk,
hit save and give it a file name.
We talk, we hit save, we give it a file name, and then it's done. So it's much less stressful on Kit, and he is okay with that. He likes being a part of it, but he also likes being more involved as a producer and planning things, and these are very off the cuff, just kind of like, hey, we're going to show up and chat with our fans, and he doesn't need to be here for that.
So it's all just production. Well, if by production you mean we hit a button and then talk, then yes, I guess it's production.
Yeah, pretty much. I will pass along your hellos to Kit.
DJ wonders if there's a reference to Dev and Waterways.
I'm
trying to remember. I know
there
I know there's a Brian reference, right?
There's intertextuality throughout Waterways and Out of Position. There's references to... I don't know if there's a reference to Dev specifically, but there's a reference to... there's a reference to Brian. I don't remember. Yeah. I think somebody else asked me about that. Like, there was a name Dev in Waterways somewhere, which... Oh, yeah. If you read about it, he's not a Tiger and he's not a football player. Yeah. Or he might be a Tiger, but he's not a football player. So, no, it's not a reference to Dev the Tiger from Out of Position.
Yeah. I was asking, there's the postcard from Gooses, which is from a Hirosaki, wondering if that's a reference to me. And like, well, unless Kyell knows somebody else with the fake last name Hirosaki. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it's from me, because as I recall, that individual didn't have a very good grasp of English. So...
Really?
I thought it was kind of like that sort of Japanized English.
Maybe.
I remember it's like Mount Fuji and stuff
he was not consulted on the contents of the postcard.
No. It was just sort of a little happy shout out. I could have written the postcard while really drunk.
That is true.
I was going to say, I have written something very interesting to Kyell while drunk at least once, which we won't say. It's a bit personal, but I remember you were very amused.
Dear sober Hirosaki, why does this egg not fry? Love, drunk Hirosaki.
Oh man, eggs are probably one of the few things I could cook while drunk. Although, at my rate, I would probably burn myself.
Yeah. Well, you would probably burn yourself even if you were sober.
No, I know.
The way you're going now.
Earlier this summer, like, within the span of, 4 days, I burned myself 3 times. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think we have any other questions queued up just yet, so if one of our lovely listeners would provide us with one...
Otherwise, we're going to just,
So the self-confessed virgin points out that Lee can, quote, perform while drunk. Is this actually common? It's certainly not uncommon to not be able to perform while drunk. I will say, speaking completely hypothetically and not from experience at all whatsoever.
All right, there you go.
Oh, God damn it. Stonewalling me into a corner with your silence.
I don't really have any experiences that I mean, my research, without limiting it to personal experience, has indicated that it is certainly possible. I do not know how common it is, because I have not gone around polling people to ask, can you perform sexually while drunk?
Yeah. And also, for those of you who don't know, Kyell doesn't really run around getting drunk himself. So.
Right.
Setsune asks about the author P. Zinsky. Is that a specific reference or in-joke?
Well, there was actually a story that's up on So Furry called...
Beautiful World?
No, it was called The Real World,
The Real World, that's right. Beautiful World was, I think one of your stories about me, right?
It was.
Yeah.
So it's a story on So Furry called The Real World, which actually features that author as a character. So you can go look that up.
That will answer all of your questions. I haven't read that story.
Well, not really.
No, but...
And then some other characters from that story actually have a cameo appearance in Shadow of the Father also. So there you go. Intertextuality again. That's one that I actually never extracted to put into other collections.
No, because I was just realizing I haven't seen it in a long time.
No, that would have fit nicely into Weasel Presents. I wonder if I'd written it by then.
No, you had. You'd written it several years before.
I don't think I've written any Argeus stories since. So
no, you haven't.
But I will have to fix that.
When you start writing, do you use double space or you put in a paragraph and a space?
What? None of the above.
Yeah, no. I mean, the formatting is something that is determined by what medium it's going to be presented in.
I use single space after period everywhere now.
Yeah.
And I do not use leading tabs at the beginning of paragraphs.
Yeah.
I let Word or whatever I'm in take care of that with style.
Yeah, there's a style, I think it's usually called first line indent. And for what it's worth, when you post things online, most parsers, when it outputs your story, will correct the 2 spaces after a period to a 1 space anyway, which I actually didn't know for several years.
If you output it in HTML, because any amount of white space is equivalent to just 1 space.
Right.
So they all sort of compress that down.
When I do it, especially when I do things for print, when I'm done, I have to search and replace double space after a period to single, because it's just 30 plus years of muscle memory. I can't train myself out of it unless I'm on a smartphone. because
Well, then the smartphone, you have the shortcut where you just hit space twice.
right.
And you
Or
don't even
actually,
have
well,
to hit the
no,
period.
that's also not true though, because I do translation work, and in translation work, especially for video games, like space considerations are like at a premium, so you can only put a space after a period, and I can do it
right.
there. But I think it's because I'm in a different mindset than just regular writing.
One problem that I have sometimes with the keyboards that I use is either I don't hit the space hard enough or the space is not sensitive enough. And so I end up with a lot of places where I have a period and no space after it, which is much harder to search and replace for.
Yeah. What would be some tips for new writers who are writing longer stories, like Out of Position? Longer stories, you mean like novels?
Yes, apparently.
Let's see. If you're a beginning writer and trying to start a novel right away,
I would recommend trying to outline.
yeah.
I mean, just because if you're not used to writing in the novel format, keeping that whole thing in your head is kind of difficult, and at least do a short outline so that you know these are the beats of the story. If you don't know that term, the beats just kind of mean the major points. Yeah. Here's what the character wants at the beginning, and here's the trouble that he goes through to get it, and here's how he gets it or doesn't get it at the end.
I have two pieces of advice. One is to read like guides for how to write screenplays, because basic novel structure and screenplay structure can be very similar, especially for novels that aren't super complicated, which again, if you're just starting out, try not to make it super complicated.
Right.
The other piece of advice I have is brace yourself for the fact that it probably won't be any good. It's your first novel. I can almost guarantee you that nobody's first novel or almost nobody's first novel has been worth anything. I tried writing my first novel 4 times, and it still was garbage. So, don't worry about that. Actually, I think my first several novels.
And you can, I mean, that doesn't mean you can't reuse the idea.
No.
Because a lot of people have said, well, I tried to write this as a novel when I was 18 or 22 or whenever I tried to write my first novel, and it didn't work, so I had to trunk it, but I still liked the idea, so when I'd gotten a little more experience, I went back and revisited it and wrote it again, and then it came out much better.
Yeah, I mean, I stole characters from my first failed novel and put them into my other books.
Right.
And that's where like Arcady comes from. He was like this one character's father, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I need like a mysterious secret agent character. I was like, yoink, you're mine. Like, hey, I already know you. He says, what's your problem with keeping it interesting? He says his problem currently is keeping it interesting when it is that long. In that case, maybe the story doesn't need to be that long. If you don't have enough content to make it a novel, then don't make it a novel. People always ask, how long should my story be? And our response is usually as long as it needs to be. If your plot isn't, structured enough to be a novel, then maybe it's not a novel, and that's fine. I mean, don't force it to be a novel just so you can say you wrote it.
Right, and the plot of a novel, generally by and large, is a character going through some kind of experience and the plot is different from the story. So the plot is the actual physical journey the character takes.
Yeah, like the chain of events that.
Right. Yeah. So, for example, we'll use Star Wars because it's a great example for a lot of things. The plot of Star Wars is boiled down. Luke Skywalker, seeking adventure, rescues the princess, gains some Jedi training, and helps the Rebel Alliance defeat the Empire's greatest threat.
Yeah.
And that's a fairly simple plot, but that's not a novel.
Right.
What makes Star Wars what the story of Star Wars is Luke Skywalker, farm boy seeking adventure who doesn't know much about the world, learns about the world and learns what it means to be a hero. And there's the point in the movie, which I've talked about in some of my other panels. It's a really understated point, but it is the pivotal character moment of Star Wars.
Yeah. Is
when Luke is being trained with the other rebel pilots, and Han comes over to him and says, "Hey, why are you wasting your time with these guys? Why don't you come with me? You're a pretty good fighter. You're a pretty good shooter."
Yeah.
And basically, he is offering Luke everything that young Luke at the beginning of the movie wanted. Adventure, excitement, pretty wild things,
Yeah.
a life free of responsibility, and all that. And Luke turns him down. And that is what makes Star Wars a better story than just its plot.
Yeah.
It's that character moment in there. So anyway, the point of this is, if your story is not an extended character journey, then maybe it's a shorter story.
Yeah.
If it's just a moment in time. It doesn't mean you can't go back and look at your characters and figure out what the character journey is, etc. I don't know. You talk now.
Yeah. Don't fall into the trap that longer is better or that more is better. You hear the saying sometimes less is more. That's very true of writing a lot. You can get a lot more out of a succinctly told story than one that meanders and that plods and that is padded out with, descriptions and sequences that have nothing to do with, what, it has to, what's even, the point of it all at the
right. And sort of from a more practical sense, if you do have a long story and your story is basically of the form, Luke Skywalker rescues Rebel Princess, helps Rebel Alliance defeat Empire, and you're kind of like, okay, so then they go get in the ship and they go to where the princess is, and you're like, well, that's kind of boring, because one of your comments is, how do I keep it interesting? At any point in the story where you're thinking, this is kind of boring, how do I make it more interesting? Ask yourself, what could go wrong at this point in the story? And ideally, it would be something that would go wrong, which would bring the characters' questions about themselves into relief. But, in general, from a plot standpoint, you construct plots out of what went wrong and how do the characters get past it. So have more things go wrong. That's the simple answer.
Yeah. If it can go wrong, it will go wrong. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yep. Did somebody just say midichlorians?
Yeah, they're talking about midichlorians. And the Mythic Fox points out the old axiom of when things get boring, send people to kick down the door with guns.
Yeah.
Have either of us read 50 Shades of Grey?
Nope.
No. My sister-in-law has. Actually, she's read all 3 of them.
I've heard from a lot of people who have read it. The consensus among secondhand opinions that I've gotten is it's a terrible book and I couldn't put it down.
It's like watching The Room.
It's kind of funny that it came from Twilight fan fiction.
Yeah. That's where it breaks down for me. Not that it's just sort of like a torrid sex fantasy. There's room for that sort of thing.
I've defended Twilight and all, but I could see Twilight fan fiction that is actually better than Twilight, which would amuse me quite a bit. So I don't know. I'm willing to give it a chance. It's actually encouraged me a little bit because it's made me feel a lot less self-conscious about the explicit books that I've put out. Because, and I'm sure, 50 Shades is definitely not 2 guys going at it, and probably not quite as explicit as I describe it, but at the same time, I've started running across a lot more sexual scenes in mainstream books that are really kind of more horrifying than the stuff I write. I mean, the stuff I write is detailed, but it's usually pretty positive, I guess.
Yeah. It's you no, I mean, unless you want to count Pendant of Fortune.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about that too. Well, thank you. Out of position, I have better sex scenes than 50 Shades, somebody wrote. So thank you for that.
I think also the overlapping sphere of interest between people who would be turned on by Out of Position versus 50 Shades of Grey is, I think, that's a very, very slim slice of the Venn diagram.
I would like to think it's bigger, because I would like to think that you could go up to people and say, hey, did you like that book about bondage and, that erotic thriller about bondage? You could read this erotic romance about a fox and a tiger.
He puts out the reference you've got is Drunk Sack. And Out of Position, yes. He has other stuff where there's
there's a bad scene in Pendant.
Yeah.
But
it's even illustrated for those of you who
who
want to have...
Sarah had to do that.
Of course she did.
Yep.
Which didn't surprise me at all.
No, I didn't necessarily complain.
Well, no, I mean it is a powerful and important scene, and I think one that deservedly stood out. We won't spoil it in case you haven't read it. And if you haven't read it, why haven't you read it?
Yeah.
I ask you. I can say that because I didn't write it.
So we're coming up on, I think, close to our half hour, maybe 5 more minutes. 2 more questions, or one if it's really involved. Give us a question.
Yeah, come on, people. All right, because of IT work, I'm constantly inundated with horrendously dry technical material. How can I recapture the joy of reading?
Find a good book.
Yeah, no, like seriously, like it sounds like dumb advice, but it's not. Just find a good book and set aside time to read it. Don't like, oh, I'll read it in the 5 or 10 minutes that I have. Like, no, like tell yourself, like, I'm not gonna chat online. I'm not gonna play WoW. I'm not going to idly masturbate. I'm going to like sit down for an hour.
Actively masturbate.
And actively masturbate. While reading Cloud Atlas. No.
I would also say if you're just kind of tired of the act of reading, like if words on a screen or words on a page tires you, try an audiobook.
That's not a bad idea.
There are a bunch that we could recommend, and a couple I could tell you to stay away from. Because I'm looking at it on the bookshelf right behind the Otter right now, the Terry Pratchett Going Postal I listened to on audiobook recently, and it was an amazingly well-performed audiobook. What else have I listened to?
I can imagine they put a lot of care into those.
Yeah, it was really good. So I would say that.
And I know you like the Harry Potter ones.
The Harry Potter audiobooks are great. The Hunger Games audiobooks are all right. The problem is, for me, that they expose the flaws in her writing, which you can't skim over like you can in the paper version.
Yeah.
What else should I listen to that I like? Elmore Leonard.
Oh, okay.
Elmore Leonard books, if you like kind of that mystery thriller. The specific one that I listened to was called Tishomongo Blues, and that one was quite good. But Elmore Leonard is just a really good writer, and his books are very active, and they adapt well to the audio format. So check those out. And I'll also say I'm in talks so that hopefully next year you will see some of my books come out on audiobook. I'm trying to make that happen as best I can. How is the anti-OOP going? The anti-OOP is waiting at the moment for the books to show up in other charity auctions. I think I've done like 3 or 4 chapters of it right now. One we were given out as a prize to the guy who guessed the number of words in the manuscript, and so I'm kind of waiting on Blotch. And Blotch has had a really busy summer. They've been traveling a lot. They've been stressed a lot because of kind of lots of extracurricular stuff going on. So they're trying to get their second book out.
Please don't pester Blotch.
Yeah.
Blotch is very busy.
Do not pester the Blotch. Busy and stressed. They're trying to get their second book out next year. So the second Nordgard book, that is. So they've been real busy, and I haven't wanted to sort of pester them for illustrations. But hopefully we'll have another one of the books in the charity auction at Rainforest. And I should actually make sure I make that happen. What other cons will I be at? Maybe we'll bring one up to Galaxicon. That would be fun. I don't know if they have a charity auction. Oklacon, maybe also.
Yeah.
But
if Galaxicon doesn't have a charity auction, I want to know why.
Well, just because the charity auction I know has been a science fiction convention staple in the past, but for some of the smaller ones, they might not have it. We're hoping that there are going to be a lot of furries up at Galaxicon, so goodbye, UPS truck. Would you publish OOP3 without blotch illustrations? Is there any scenario in the world in which I would publish it without blotch illustrations? Yes. I mean, if
Blotch both suddenly died.
Yeah, I mean, if something drastic happened, or if they just came back and said we can't do the illustrations, then yeah, I would publish it without the illustrations. But if it's a question of, well, they're going to be 2 months late with the illustrations, and I'm like, okay, well, that means I release it at FWA instead of FC, then yeah, I would wait. I mean, they have really done so well by those characters that
they're effectively part of the brand at this point.
Yeah, given the opportunity to have them in the book, I would hold off if need be. That's about it. We're at about quarter after. I think we started about quarter till. So
Okay.
We will wrap this up. Thank you guys all for coming by in the middle of our day.
Yeah.
And
for giving us something to do in the middle of ours.
Yeah, let us.
Now I've got a shorter time frame in which to get the rest of my work for the day done, but that's okay.
Yeah, me too.
It won't be that bad. It's actually going pretty smoothly.
And yeah, I have stuff to get done too.
If they do the illustrations, does that mean they get to read the manuscript? Well, yes.
Yes.
It would be very difficult for them to illustrate a book if they didn't know.
Well, I mean, I know cases where I could just give them scenes and be like, "This is what's going on. Draw this."
Yeah,
but it's much easier if they get to read it.
Yeah, and the artist can be inspired to.
Yeah, and they want to. So, all right, guys, we will see you in probably a couple weeks. Actually, I think 2 weeks from today we'll still be here.
Yeah, and then later that week we'll be in Seattle.
Later that week we'll be in Rainforest.
No.
All right. Take care, everyone. It's my cue to cut it off now.